Thank you, everyone, for your patience as I become the conference gremlin, and I am so sorry. So, hello, PyTexas. As he said, my name is Amy Arambulo Negrette, and I'm here to talk about cloud cost analysis, which is a series of words I can say without making it sound like a joke. So how do I make this go down? There we go. So why are we talking about this? Why is it important? And what is it? And basically, what is the next 20 minutes or however fast I can talk be about? It's cloud cost analysis. On the shortest version of it is you get a bill from your provider. I'm assuming we all know what cloud is? We all know what cloud is? Or are we still on-prem? How many people are still on-prem? Still works. All of this math will still work. It just, your bill is coming from a completely different place, maybe internally. So it's taking about what that bill comes out to and being able to translate that into architecture decisions. That is the short version. There was going to be I said out loud earlier the words, I'm gonna do a live demo. And then everything earlier happened, and that's not gonna happen anymore. So we're just gonna burn past that part. You'll see the slide where I was supposed to do the demo. It's funny to me now. So what is cloud cost analysis? Oh, it's right here also. You've also probably heard it called FinOps or cloud economics. It's a bunch of words to make technology and finance sound like they're supposed to go together, even though you think about it and you feel kind of bad inside. All of that kind of is on is a practice of how your architecture is derived from business decisions and how that turns into spend. As engineers, we'd all like to do that efficiently. We like to build things efficiently. We'd like things to work when they're supposed to. We'd like them to not go down. And we'd like to not pay for horrible mistakes. Or even not so horrible mistakes. Maybe it's not even our mistake that we're paying for. All of the money we spend, or don't, is a result of the things that we build and where we build it. But that's boring. And we're here to look at code. But I crashed a bunch of stuff, so we're not gonna. Besides, programming starts at design. We all know what happens when we go into a situation, go, I have a vague idea of what we want. It feels super simple to do. I'm just gonna go hands to keyboard and do it. Now, if my slides are working, imagine like a good old garbage fire here, because that's basically what happens. You're going to end up with trying to go, oh, all I have to do is build this one function, stand up this one machine, and it'll be fine. And next thing you know, you have 3 machines, they all have like half-written code on it, and it's all garbage, it's all a mess. So this graph right here is basically what I've been describing. Well, imagine we're trying to build out a simple ETL. We're going to take some data in, we're going to do some stuff to it, and we're going to shove it into some kind of data storage. That's perfect, it's simple, it's an endpoint, it's a compute, it's a database. And then we stand it up to the best of our ability. Then we get the bill. What do you mean I'm paying $15 for a database? That doesn't seem right. I wrote 4 things to it. What am I going to do about that? Oh, well, if you have to work in any kind of team where your budget is handed down from leadership, they're going to ask you those questions, and you're going to say, that's how much a database costs, and that's not that much. We'll try to make it less. You didn't really use it that much, according to your architecture metrics. Okay, fine. You try to narrow it down. And then you bring it down more, and then they look at those, and then you're back into the design, you're back into the architecture, the bill comes again. That is a real-life billing cycle. It isn't just when your bill comes, it's what happens between every invoice. I do a lot of talks specifically about metrics and observability and other things. The key is that metrics is numbers, observability is insight. And cost comes out as both. You can find out what you're doing from how much you're spending, and you can also measure what you're spending against what you're doing. If you're going to use it as a metric, the things that the kind of data you're going to pull in from your usage reports are things like resource IDs, the actual ID that's stamped on every VM that gets sent to you. You can actually break that down against how much you're actually using versus the retail rate. Also, usage incurred. I said all of these words already in one sentence. But usage incurred is how long something is running. Retail rate is how much they're actually charging you before you get things like credits and discounts and whatever. And the amount you're charged, which is post all of the discounts or whatever. So there are some platforms that run flat rate. DigitalOcean runs flat rate. Full disclosure, I am a DigitalOcean employee. I do work in their developer advocacy. So if you do flat rate, you want to be sure to measure your usage against what that dollar is, because the dollar is going to be same every month. If you're using it less on a certain period and more on another, that's the kind of data you want to dig into. Now, I also used to work a bunch on AWS stuff where they have tiered pricing. If you're using it a lot, that number goes up real fast, and you want to be able to measure that stuff out. And that's when we come into cost as an insight. That's how much you actually spend over any given period of time. Services that have the most growth, that's a thing that you can easily sort out of any MySQL table, which was part of my demonstration, and now it's gone. And scaling, as I mentioned, that breaks tiers, especially if you're dealing with a bunch of requests. That may not even suggest more users. It just could be it can be a DDoS attack. It can just be the same. If you work in education, you'll get a lot more traffic in certain months than you will in others when everyone's on vacation. And then you'll see your pricing break through that tiering and go into the highest amount. This is where I was going to demonstrate how to build an application, and it's not going to work. But the general thing here is your receipts go in, you're going to do that ETL transformation that I described earlier. What you're going to do is make sure to key up all of the columns. And by the way, all cloud providers change their column keys. They say they don't, but they do. And they won't warn you when they do it, so you want to make sure that that kind of thing is always validated before you put it into your data store, unless you're using something like Athena or Hadoop. This is where my demo would come. In any case, what the demo was going to do was we were going to pull in my live receipts, especially considering it is the first of the month and I just got a bunch. And we're going to do some transformation, we're going to do some SQL queries, and going to pump that into a database. That's all it really takes. And a lot of even large organizations don't realize that you can do that automatically. There are organizations out there that still take in their receipts through their email and forward it through email to their finance department and say, you go copy and paste this into Excel. Please don't do that. Never copy and paste into Excel. It will hurt your feelings. So if you learn anything, don't do that. You can, all of the large providers also provide built-in tooling specifically for this purpose, because the larger providers have 20 million services, a quarter of them do the same thing, they won't tell you which ones. And then they will send you a blob of data and an invoice saying, you can pay this in 30, 90 days, depending on what your contract says. So before, you used to have to do that by hand. Now they have the tooling is built in. You should still also, this is just a personal, I don't trust anybody else's math problem. Download your own data, do your own work, reconcile it with what the cloud says. And then if it's wrong, you can get stuff back. because they never get things wrong that's not in their favor. Okay, so for GCP, this is especially important if you're running Kubernetes because Kubernetes is expensive. Kubernetes is not only expensive, it has a bunch of hidden costs, especially as far as things like data transfer and all of that stuff that you will not see when you're doing your first draft of design. They have a billing account API, a billing budget API, and a cost estimation API when you're ready to do forecasting. You want to be able to focus on the billing account API. That's the one where you download all of your stuff. It has a built-in native trigger to their pub sub that you can pump either into BigQuery or Looker. And then you can get really nice, super complicated dashboards like that. And you can find out what your month over month is. You can find out what services are eating all of your spend. And you can find out if you get all of your departments to actually tag their resources, you can find out which department to blame and charge for it. AWS, I did a lot of work in this, and I'm trying to find a nice way of saying this. Turn on your CUR. It is your cost and usage report. It is not on by default for some reason. And when you turn it on, they will only turn it on from the point you ask them to. So if you're an organization that's been on their cloud for a while, you have to actually send a request through your TAM to get it turned on for you. All of these things are not built in. You have to do it by hand. You have to send this directly into S3 and then put Athena on top of that. And if you don't want to give everybody in your company a Tableau license or an Excel license, because those prices do add up, you will want to use QuickSight. That is built in, and then you can put it on top of it. It's not pretty or really very flexible, but it will give you a graph like this so you can find out the basics of the information that you need. And Azure, because they are Microsoft, and Microsoft is an enterprise-based organization, they have a lot of billing stuff ready to go. You can just go into their dashboard, and their dashboard will automatically give you that. You can also, if you have a Power BI instance, it'll pump right into that. And it's all basically done for you. If you can even take the information directly out of Power BI and do your own analytics if you would like. This was a lot of talk if you check this GitHub right here in the corner where you can actually see all these slides, because I don't know about you, I am better at reading than hearing, that it's 16 lines of code to build that ETL. It is super easy. It was not a lot of code. The concepts themselves are actually very important, especially right now. One reason, Python, the way I was introduced into Python was someone in our company had used it for analytics. It's very good for that. Sure, you can do R or something else, I'm sure, on top of that if you are better at analytics than me. But if you have to run these numbers and do that type of analysis work, Python is great for it. And also, cost optimization is about efficiency. All the efficiencies you build into your architecture do turn into, should turn into savings on your bill. Sometimes it won't, and when it doesn't, that is a thing to investigate and talk to whoever your account manager is. And right now, efficiency, especially where your receipts are concerned, are extremely important, especially with what are my new favorite words? Macroeconomic conditions. So if you are in the sector of technology where you're kind of always looking over your shoulder, now is a good time to dig into your bill and see how you can make things cheaper. See if you can make things more efficiency, and make sure those efficiencies actually do turn up in your bill. Sometimes we hyper-optimize for performance, and because it doesn't show up into your bill, it becomes an argument we have to have later on in the quarter when someone's doing their budget review. You did all of this work. You told us it improved. Then why aren't we seeing our costs come down? It's like, it's like we became more performant. We're processing more requests, et cetera, et cetera. That is why the bill did not change. And then you can match it to your retail rate. You can match it to your accounts. You can match it to any kind of enterprise agreement you have. Being able to understand these is a great way to keep your budget. If you are a small startup or you have a small side project that is starting to take off and you need to get some kind of VC funding, obviously not from SVB, but I hear there are other people still doing that kind of work. If you're going to do that, this is the first thing they're going to ask. They're going to ask about your efficiency. They're going to ask if you already did your cost op work, because that would be the first thing they'll tell you to do before coming back for money, because they want to make sure that you are using the money that they give you for the right things. So right now, my entire thing is understand what you're spending, making sure that your code is doing the thing that it's supposed to do, making sure your architecture is doing the thing it's supposed to do for how much you should be doing it for. That way, we can all kind of keep a little more to ourselves and, like I said, survive all of these macroeconomic conditions. So I'm sure there are a lot of questions because I skipped over a lot that I couldn't get to. But this is, if you just follow this repo, I'm not doing this for stars or anything. This is also a thing that I'm going to expand to also cover those other clouds. It also has the demo code that I was going to present. I should warn you that, as I've mentioned before, I'm actually a PHP developer. I do Python for work, but PHP is the thing I'm good at. So if you see ways of making my code better, please tell me. I'm perfectly fine taking criticism. And if you also have any other questions specifically about doing cost analysis, it's like, how can we make this more efficient? I'm also out there. I'm willing to answer questions wherever on all of these things. I'm also on the Discord, and I'll talk to you about anything. So I talked as fast as possible. Yay!